here's Canon in D. I'm going to break this up into 4 parts and just do 4 bars at a time. So here's the first 4 bars. I start with just the chords, and the first 4 bars really were just arpeggiating the chords. So if you've never done this, really all I'm trying to do is play the bass notes with my thumb, and then first finger on the G string, second finger on the B, and third finger on the high E. And I'm going to use the same fingers every time. So thumb, 1, 2, 3, thumb, 1, 2, 3. That kind of thing. So I'll start on the D and just play the arpeggio. Thumb, 1, 2, 3. Then the A. I'm switching bass notes, so I'm going to the A bass note of the A chord now. So I've gone D, G, B, E, just with my D chord held. Then I go to the A chord and I go A, D, G, B, and I just use the same fingers. And that's it, I'm walking up the chords every time. So now I'm going to play the bass note again of this B minor. So we get this 2, 4, 4, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go to this F sharp. I'm just going to shift this big shape onto the 2nd fret and do the same idea, but this time I'm going to hit the bass note and then I've got a gap. Sometimes you'll be playing the same pattern but you've got a gap. So now I don't play the A string. Oops. There we go. So low E, D, G and B. And as you press in that one, for power, I always tell my students to push on the back with your thumb, about halfway down the fretboard. And don't just rely on your fretting fingers to do all the work with power chords like that. If you're new to power chords, bring your thumb down and use the thumb for lots of power, and push on the back of the fretboard, and you'll get a nice clean chord as opposed to squeaky notes. Then we get G. So low G there, and then D, G and B. Then when I move to this D with an F sharp in the bass, I'm going to slide this finger down 1 fret. I could do it, I could refinger with 1, 2 and 3 if I wanted, but I don't want to move that many fingers, ever when I'm playing guitar. I only want the easiest possible movement. There's no need to do these big 3-finger movements when 1 will do. So you could do it with the little finger as well. So we've got this 2nd finger, 3rd finger on the B, slide the 2nd finger down 1 fret, and then so I'm on 2nd fret of the E, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B. Back to G, A. So that's it really, that's the first part. It's all about just keeping the patterns going. And I guess my top tip would be, make sure you can get to your chords on the beat. Step 1 could be to just play the chords like with the pattern till you feel comfy. So then you could put a beat on and see if you can do it to the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, that's part 1. In part 2, we do the same chord progression, obviously, but we're going to change the pattern a little bit. So I'm going to use the same fingers, but I'm changing from arpeggios, where we just go ascend through the chord, so from a bass note up, like thumb 1, 2, 3, to a pattern where I'm going to play the D string and the high E string together, and then come inside for the G and the B. So I'm going to pluck the D and the D and the E together, then the G and the B, and get that little pattern. So I think step one for me would be just to learn that pattern. Just get comfortable with that. So you can do that. Then we're going to switch to an A major chord, and I'm going to play the A bass note and the E, the high E together. So there's that gap again where, you know, I'm doing the same pattern, but now there's a gap where there's a bass note and then a huge jump up to the A string. So there we didn't really do the pattern, there we went back to an arpeggio. So we've got pattern, then back to arpeggios again, like we did in part one. B minor, there's a pattern, but now I'm doing it on the A and the B string together, then the D, G, D. Switch the big shape to this F sharp. That switch is really just about power, you know, if you can really push your finger on the back, especially if you're playing this on a steel string like this. So there I'm doing a G, just one finger. You could do the whole G chord if you wanted, but I'm not playing these strings anyway. I'm not playing the A string, I'm not playing the high E, so it wouldn't matter if I did that. But here we go. Same shapes as before. So we've got a pattern on the D, arpeggio on the A, pattern again on the B minor, pattern on the F sharp, there's that pattern again on the G, slide it down, back to G, A. Okay, here's part two. So I'm starting with this D chord, and I'm playing this high A at the same time as the D bass note. And then I'm just playing some single notes in between, which you could do with your second finger. I'm just plucking them with my second finger. The next time you get up to the A, I'm going to play the A bass note again. So we get the D bass note, then the A bass note, I should say. Then I'm going to walk up my scale. I'm going to use my thumb pick for this. That sounds really cool if you get that together. Then we want to grab this B minor, and I'm only playing the A string and the high E string together, and then I'm going to play two notes, which on the tabs, like on the arrangement, it looks like it just should be. This is why you shouldn't really follow tabs blindly, because it doesn't always tell the whole story. So here we've got the bass notes. While I'm holding this B, I'm going to play these two notes together, so I don't have to lose this, you know, this low B drone that I've got going in the bass, you know. Then I can keep it going and it sounds a bit more full. If you don't, you get, it sounds really bare, you know. So try and keep that bass note going if you can. Then I'm going to play two single notes. So we've lost the bass note at this point, but we're coming back with this F sharp. So I'm going to really push my thumb on the back of the fretboard to get the power here for this, you know, chunky F sharp. Thumb and the G together, and and I'm using my little finger to grab that B note. So 2, 4, 2. Then I'm going to grab this D string 5th fret, and then 2nd fret on the G. And then I'm going to do this 3, 2, 3. This is all in bar 6. Let's do that again. So B, phew, one more time. Then we get G. So I'm doing that G with an open B string at the top. 3, 2, then the D and G together, D and the B together. So I'm doing this, a lot of these single notes I'm just doing with my 2nd finger. I'm either using my thumb pick or just my thumb and 2nd finger. It really doesn't matter which finger you use, as long as you've got one available that you're comfortable just picking out notes with. I use my 2nd finger a lot. Then we've got that 2nd fret on the E string, 2nd fret on the G. So we get this G, F sharp, this is bar 7. G, bar 8. So here I'm doing a G with the low E string and the B together, and I'm walking down the scale a little bit. Then I'm playing this, really it's a B minor 7, it's the same B minor as before, but now I'm just doing more of an open voicing, so same thing really. I'm going to play it with fingers 1 and 3. So walking up scale, then the A note, A string, then I like this part. We get this, I'm going to play this in bar 8, we're going to play this 4th fret on the A string, 2, 3, 5, and I'm just plucking those with my 2nd finger. So very satisfying to get up to that high A. So the whole thing, here we go. Okay, here's part 4. So now we're doing the same sort of thing, but we're adding some intervals or some jumps in between. They're mostly jumps of a 6th, so we're on the G string and the high E string. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to play this D chord again with an open D string. We'll play the D string and the high E, and then this little pattern that we already did. So same pattern as in part 2. This time I'm going to go play the A, this 6th fret on the G string, and then the 5th fret on the high E. And you might say, well, how do I do all 3 at once? Well, you can use your thumb, your 1st finger on the G, and then either your 2nd finger or your 3rd finger to grab all 3 at once. So bass note, G string, E string. And we're gonna hold the 6th fret on the G and the 5th fret on the high E. So we get this. Then I move on to this A chord, and I'm going to play the A, the G, and the high E together with my second finger on the 6th fret of the G string and my first finger on the 5th fret of the high E. So I'm holding the 6th fret and the 5th fret, and I'm plucking the A string, the G string, there it is, and the high E string together. So if I do bar 1 first, make that nice A chord, then I'm going to switch my thumb to the G string and the high E, and I'm just going to concentrate on these two strings and play the 7 and 7 together on the G string, on the G and the high E. So we get this 6 and 5, 7 and 7, 6 and 5. So it's the same shape. That's the second shape. And then we go back to the same shape as before. So 6 and 5, 7 and 7, 6 and 5. Then this same shape, this major shape, down to the 4th and the 3rd fret. So if I just did the first bar, it would be like this. So in bar 2, I'm playing a B minor with the low A bass note, then the high, the B string and the high E. It's just those 3 notes, but you could add the G as well. I add the G as well there, to be honest. Let's break some rules. So we get the low bass note, the G, B, and the E together, and then I'm playing that little pattern in between. Thumb 1, thumb. Then I'm doing the same thing that I did with the A. I would do this with a bar like this. You know, you're welcome to try it however you want. You could do it with your first finger, barring the whole thing, like that. Because I need the E string, the G string, and the B string. So because I've got these 3 notes, I'm going to have to bar the whole thing. And pluck E, G, and B, low E, G, and high E together. I could do it, I'm tempted to do it like this with my second finger and then bar the top 3 strings, or even the top 4 strings. I do lots of minor chords like that. Let's say we just did a bar with the first finger. So we get this. Probably best to just use the first finger. So in bar 2, I get this B minor, where I'm going to play the low bass note and the top 2 strings, the B and the high E. You could add the G if you want. Totally fine. So thumb on the A, 1, 2, 3. The little pattern, D, G, D. Then I'm going to bar the F sharp at the 2nd fret, my first finger all the way down. This takes a lot of power, so again, use your thumb on the back of the fretboard. And I'm going to strum the E string, the G, and the high E together. Then I'm going to play 3. I tell a lie, I'm going to play 4 and 3. And then I'm going to play 2 and 2, and open, open. And that's all on the G string and the high E string. So G, 4th fret and 3rd fret. Actually, first of all, we're going to play... So first of all, we're going to play the 2nd fret of the low E, the G, and the high E. Then we're going to just move up to these 2 strings. So just the G and high E at the 3rd fret, the 4th fret and the 3rd fret. Then the 2nd fret and the 2nd fret, and then open and open. So all on the G string and the high E. So we get this. I'm moving on to bar 3, so we get pattern again where we play the bass note and a high note of the chord and then a little pattern in between. I like this because they've changed up the rhythm a little bit here. Well, not the rhythm, but the pattern. They've changed the pattern to... Before we had... Now they've changed it around to... So for the G chord in bar 3, we're going to play the low E string, the G string open, and then the 3rd fret of the B string. And then a little pattern in between where I'm just playing the G, the D, and the G. Keep that going and slide 1 fret down to the 2nd fret, add your 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the G, and then little finger for this D with an F sharp again, same chord as before. So we get... So there they've mixed up the pattern. It used to go... D, G, D, but now we're doing G, D, G, so that's reversed. So instead of going thumb, 1, thumb, we're going to go 1, thumb, 1. And then switch back again. Kind of fun. Then we move to the G again. Walking down the scale. Look, I'm using my 2nd finger again. And then my A chord here. And I'm just playing that pattern again. 1, 2, 1. And back to a D chord. So here's that whole last section, part 4.